Hi, so this is a video about Loras, but also about mixing things up, about making things random, a bit randomized, but in a controlled way. So random when you just hit a seed number and out pops a picture with a short description. I don't mean that sort of random. I mean a more controlled throwing of the dice. And I'm going to cover two ways of doing it, and also I'm going to cover how you use Loras. A lot of people think you just bung a Lora in, put it up to full 2 or something, and you know it'll make everything steampunk. But it's you can do that, but it's there's more subtle things you can do. So what we'll do, we'll start with the first way of mixing things up, which is ever so simple. It's getting 2 prompts. Here we have a huge space city, and here we have a clifftop city. So we've got 2 different prompts, but not completely different. This works better if the prompts have some relation. So it's not a completely random mix. You can mix an interior and exterior, and you can get interesting things there. But the main thing is that it will prompt something that you couldn't have prompted with by writing it out, and something you couldn't have visualized and then typed a description of. But because of these 2 prompts have some similarities, I'm still in control of exactly what the subject matter is and so forth. So what I'll do is have a look. We'll take the batch down for now. We'll have a look at what each of them does by itself. So at the moment, we're on 1, using the conditioning average here. So the conditioning average is taking this one, so you're going in conditioning 2. Conditioning 2 is 1. So this prompt here is doing nothing whatsoever. So that's that one. If we want that one, we put it to 0. But we're going to do 1, then the other, and see what results they give us. I'll move the seed on, so it's a new picture for all of us. Now, this is only doing 6 steps, and 6 steps is enough to see roughly what the composition is and if it's going to be a good one or a duff one. So I do batches because you can pick out a good one from a batch. But anyway, we'll do just a one shot here. There we go. That was quite boring, but it's sort of all right, I suppose. But this is a very, if you see, look at it, it's very undefined. It's on the way to being resolved, but it's still quite soft and noisy. So we'll have a look at the other prompt. So we go to 0, which means it's just this prompt, and we'll fire that off on the same seed. So let's have a look at what it does on the other end, on nothing, which is this prompt here. So watch that go through. And it's very quick because it's only doing a few steps. So that's the other one. So the next one we do, we'll go to halfway. And this is the first tricky thing that's not obvious, is that it tends to flip from one to other. It's not linear, so it doesn't do a smooth segue from one to the other. So there we go. But you can see that's different, and you can see it's considerably more complex. So you can weight them. Let's go back. Let's go up to 65 there. So you can weight them against each other and get interesting stuff happening. And you see it's just changed a bit. So at either end, say we go back to that, say from 65 to 1, there won't be much difference. And there won't be much difference from 30 odd to 0. The difference all happens in a tight band around halfway. But in that tight band is where the interesting stuff happened. And by chance, it actually did something interesting on that. I'll go back to that one. So it actually did something interesting on that one. There we go. So that's one way of mixing things up. You can put 2 prompts in, weight them against each other, and you get a sort of something that you couldn't have imagined or thought of in some ways. The other way, I should have added maybe that I've got an image here just to give I like to do a bit of something with the latent before it goes in, but it's a very low level, so 85. I find you get a more interesting picture. You can turn it off and just do it to text to image, but I like to have a bit of input on the initial latent. So what we have here is a bit of fun. I have split the latent, you see, Here's the latent. And I have split it between two different processes with slightly different settings and slightly different prompts. So I've split my two prompts up. So here's the number 1 prompt, here's the 0 prompt. So this is being just done on the 0 prompt. This is just being done on the 1 strength prompt. So we should get 2 different images, but we're using this image as image to image. So this is our initial starter image. And then this will produce 2 variations on it, and it'll mix them together. We'll run that because it's easier to show than it is to explain. Don't know which one it's doing. Oh, it's doing that one first. Okay, so that's different again. And so is that one. And then it mixes them together. Here, I'll go through that. And there we go. So what we'll do, we've got something going here. We'll stop that. Okay, so you see we have 2 different results. And not only has it got a different prompt for each one, it's got a different set of Loras as well. So I'm trying to produce 2 slightly different images that sort of come from the same land. So they have lots of similarities, but they're not the same. And then the clever bit happens down here. And here I mix the 2 of them together. So they're going in, 1 image going in there, 1 image going in there, and they're masked together with this funky image here. We can put a different one of these in. But they need to be monochrome images, which I have quite a few here. We can put it in a different one. So that's a slightly different one, quite funky. And that will mix these 2 images very crudely together, which results in this rather strange image. I'll just run it. I just changed the... so you see that's with the other masker. So what it's done is break the whole thing up. Do you see this? And quite by chance, I discovered that for image to image, Flux absolutely loves this sort of image. It really, really does like it. So we then process it through again with some more steps. These were not many steps, only another 6 steps each. So the process is pretty quick. And then this is encoded, this image is encoded, and we run it through again with different Loras again and a different prompt too. This one actually is this one. No, this one actually wants to run on a different prompt. So I'll just pop that in there. That needs to run on that prompt. So this is running on the original prompt that made the first image. We'll come to the other stuff. You can add a different prompt there, but that's for another purpose, which we will go into. Okay, so we'll run that, see what it does. Again, slightly more steps, does 12 steps this time, which gives us a pre-resolved image. So there we go. That's pretty odd. Not sure about the people. Let's run that. And so we can seed hunt at every stage here. So there we go. So at each stage, you see how it's got more interesting. So what it is just randomizing it a little bit, but not too much. Randomizing it in the right way. So now we can play with this image because if we change the seeds on this one, or on this one. Let's change the seeds on this one, because it's got this strange thing there. So we just change the seed on that, and then go back and watch this one, and this image will change. There you go. Not a great change, but each time you change the seed of either of these images, do this one, then this image will change. It won't change that much. The composition will stay the same. The general content will stay the same, but you'll get interesting variations. Or not so interesting variations, depending on your luck. And there we go. Okay, that one's quite nice. It's not got figures in. I didn't want figures in it, really. And you can, of course, let's go back right to the beginning, change this image as many times as you want. So let's watch the whole thing, do its stuff. So we'll change the seed at the very beginning, and that'll put a different latent into both of these and try and follow them. So that's going to make a different image here. That's a very different image. Then it'll make a different image here. There we go. And then another different image here. Then it'll smurge them together, which makes that. Then that image gets processed again. And there we have it. But yeah, it really wants to put people in this one. Another seed here. Get rid of the people. I might have a person in one of the prompts somewhere. I better check that. There we go. So that's quite a nice image. We can send that on. So what I do is I send that to an upscale here, which just upscales it. Just a model upscale 2 times. Then we do a refine. I just got to check we're not... where we're getting the text. Here we go. Got the wrong text in there. What we'll do, we'll run on this one. So this is the original prompt here. I was wondering where the people were coming from. Okay, so we should get a refine after that. Now let's see how this goes. So there we go. There's the refine. And that really runs through the process. So we'll do another one and let it run all the way through. So we'll do another scene. I'll put this workflow in and I'll annotate it to describe what everything does. You can use any model with this, really. The balance of Loras, etc., will be slightly different. So there we've got a new image there, which will be here. It's very quick, as you see. It's only 6 steps, which gives us a new image there. That's this one. Another image there. Then it mixes them together. Then it'll give us another image here, which is the mixture. Aha! Let's put a person in again. I think I've got another person in one of the prompts somewhere. She's having a nice time. It's rather strange. I quite like that. And so forth, and they're off. There we go. And actually, the person vanished at that point. But there you see, we get quite a nice, very complex image. I got to find out where the person's coming in there. I think the person's arriving here, isn't it? So, yeah, here we go. Let's do that again. So, this should depersonify it. Hey, person gone. I'll be putting the people back in a minute because I need to show you what I use that for. But and there you go. I'll stop it at this point. So this is the refine. So you can produce infinite variations. I made this workflow for making variations to train Loras, and I've since found it extremely useful. There we go. So we'll leave that alone and get into the tricky world of Loras and how to mix Loras together, which is another variable in this, and we have different Loras here and there. So if we move away from space and we'll call it a Baroque city or fairy tale city with let's go the full fantasy elven buildings. They're not grey, are they? I'll leave the bronze in the background. A range of snowy mountains. That's all fine. And then we'll fantasize this as well. So clifftop city, that's fine. We make the buildings elven again. Fantasy mansions, whatever they are. Put spires in. Don't think the bridge is parabolic. Not sure why it was parabolic in the first place. Right? There we go. So that's been fantasized. And then we need to populate the other text boxes, which there are a few, but I just copy and paste. Now you can obviously put in a completely new prompt here if you want. I'm just scattering this one around. And then we also need to have some examples of the other prompt. This is to get the variation. Now I could have mixed a space city and the elven fantasy city. That is not a problem, really. I think you get interesting stuff occasionally doing that. Right, so we're all fantasy. And so now we want to make the Loras fantasy as well. So we've put a fantasy Lora in. We can leave that. We can leave that as well. But we probably turn that one off because that's not very fantasy. So that's our first image. Then we go to the second Lora stack up here. And we'll put the fantasy one in. And maybe go and look for another fantasy one here. How about Rococo Steampunk? Why not? And then one more lot of Loras here. I think there's two more layers of Loras. We'll see. So again, the main one is going to be the fantasy Lora, which is feedbacks 3. That's a science fiction Lora. I think we'll do that one, and we'll leave that. That's fine. And there we go. I don't think we're using this stack of Loras here, so I think we can run on the original. I think we can run on the original one here. I'll leave it. That won't make any harm. We'll add a couple of. Maybe we'll go for the steampunk. That's the fun of this. You can mess around. I think that one needs to be 60. Not too heavy on the steampunk. Okay, so that's everything changed around. I don't think I've missed anything. I could have done, but I don't think I have. But you see, you could go fantasy here and then switch to sci-fi there. So you can see all the possibilities. And the whole idea of this workflow and method is to increase the number of possibilities, and it's sort of controlled randomness. So let's see what that does. What I do is I turn these off because I really don't want to run the whole lot with a bad seed, and seeds are just luck, really. In some ways, this is a method to exploit a good seed. So there we go. We've gone fantasy. There you go. That looks fine, actually. So we'll go with that one. So we turn these back on, set them to always. We'll leave that as it is, and then I'll block that off there. So we can watch that run through. So it's going to do that one first, isn't it? So this is going to be a variation on that figure with the Castley thing. There we go. Quite similar. This one. They all have figures. I don't know. Yes, excellent. And all figures in more or less the same place. And then that's merged into that. And there you go. And see much richer the image has got. Lots of nice detail. The figure, if you see, the figure has improved. Go back to the other one. So we've got a very generic figure there. And here, everything has got a little bit more rich and lovely. So, we're going to then seed hunt on any of these, really. There you go. That's quite nice. Looks like they've got a place for a barbecue there. So, we've got a figure in there. So, Loras. You have never really more than 3 or 4 Loras going at the same time, really. And you want a dominant one and a couple of backup ones. So this is a fantasy Lora. This one, Fuvax 3, is doing fantasy. This is doing fancification, Rococo steampunk. And the Eldritch digital painting is making it an illustration rather than a photograph. I'm not fond of photographs, as anyone who watches my videos will know. So I'll quickly do the refine on this. And this process is, in this instance, to make a background image. There you go. Quite a nice fantasy image. And it's all coherent. I don't know what that is. Someone is fishing for something with a carrot. Fishing for rabbits, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so you've got a background. What if you want someone in it? So what we'll go through now is, having made your background, is how do you put someone in it? And you do that down here. So you load your person in here. So what we'll do, we'll get a fantasy lady. She looks quite fantasy. And I'm using PNGs with a transparency, which you can make, or you can use a segmenter if you want. So you see that puts her into this picture. This workflow will be on there. And you can size her. So we want her a little bit bigger. Here, rescale. So she's got a bit bigger. And you can move her up and down as well with this. So we move her back that way and down a bit. So with this box here, you can move her around. The power, eh? And I want to stick her over that figure there. There we go. So there she is. And you can adjust her colour and so forth. So she looks nice. So we have our smudgy background with our figure dropped in over the top. Now, what we do need to do now is that we need to add her to our prompt. We also need to make sure we put that image in here. So that is coming out of here to this image. There we go. So that's coming out of here, and it's putting this image into this box here. So then we need to run from a new prompt here. So what we'll do, we'll add our figure to this. Okay, so we've added our fairy queen in there, and we've got to run from this conditioning here. There we go. So that is now running off this prompt. Okay, let's see if we get a fairy queen. So as you see, we get a perfectly coherent fairy queen in our fantasy scene. And we can move her about, do anything we want, really. So that does the background. Now, here's the trick. We can now change the background without necessarily changing her very much. So I could change the seed here, and there you can see the possibilities of it. So if I change the seed here, I'll get a new start image, and we'll watch it run through. This is often a calamity, but you never know. Could be a good one. Oh, that's rather good. I like that. So that, again, we'll follow it along. That's made this image here. I can't keep up because it's only 6 steps, so it's pretty quick. That's made that one there, which we'll put our lady in. There we go. Would you? Look at that. Now, if you were going to describe that, you'd need quite a few words, wouldn't you? Because that's a pretty good image. So what we'll do, upscale that and make sure that we've got our fairy queen prompt running across. Is that our fairy queen prompt? That's our fairy queen prompt. It's all looking good. And I also need our model from here to go in there. So we're running off these. Well, that should be fine. It doesn't actually make a lot of difference on the... So what you have to... This is quite a complicated thing. You'll have to learn to find your way around. There's a difference. You've got to make sure that the clip is coming and the model is coming from the right place. So this model line here is coming from before this Lora. And this model line here is coming from after this Lora. So what we don't want, which ends there you'll notice, what we don't want is for the Loras to be applied twice. So I end up with, I just plug them in. I shall tidy this lot up on the workflow I post, but and label everything so you'll know where everything's going. So let's see if this refines well. Should do. Looks pretty good. So there she is. Now for me, she's not resolved enough. So all of these flowers and everything, all this castle is lovely, but I think she needs a little bit more refining. So what you can do is send her on. So if we crop her out, so this is cropping a section out, and we can, by using the X and the Y's, if we find her, there she is. That's probably enough. We just want the hand and her, really. And we're increasing her 3 times. This is inpainting. I don't know why people make such a fuss about inpainting. It is so easy to do. You don't need a model or anything. Now, what we have here is a separate prompt just for her and another set of Loras. So I've got a person Lora in here, you see. And I just want the fantasy Lora, number 3. So that can all stay the same. But I need our fairy queen. So let's swipe our fairy queen from back here. There we go. And then this is running at quite a high denoise. Maybe that's too high. You can play with this. So this will refine the figure. So there we go. So you see she is a lot more refined. Got good hands and everything. And all you do is paint that in. Open it in Mask Editor. Wiggle through this lot. It won't have changed the image that much. Save that to the node. We'll go across here and watch her arrive. There we are. So you see she fits perfectly with the refined lady. And there you go. So I hope that's all clear. There are various other things. I'm not sure whether they'll be in the other thing I'm quite keen on is cropping the final image, because this one's fine. Although we could do with that stuff at the edge there maybe, but I think that's fine as a composition. I would probably crop it off a bit at the bottom actually. Let's do that, because you don't have to accept that as a final image. So let's crop it off at the bottom a little bit. I don't like that red spot there, you see. There we go. Isn't that better? I think we could lose a little bit on the right-hand side as well. Don't like that leaf there much either. So that's sort of all right. So there you go. I will annotate this workflow, and there'll be instructions all over it, so you can work your way through it. Okay, I hope that was useful and interesting. And that's the lot. We didn't do the layer stack here, but I put other videos on the layer stack. The layer stack, I will do it quickly. This video is getting too long. So we'll just run the layer stack to show. The layer stack is running off this image here. Now I've got to make sure that it's running on the same conditioning, which is this conditioning here. So it's got to run on the same conditioning as this one is here. So what we'll do, we'll bung that up there, and then we'll turn this to her. And what this will do is to produce 3 variations, which can be very useful. So that's produced from this image. It's producing 3 variations of this image here. Again, it's quite quick. It's not a huge number of steps. You have to be careful not to let your step count get too high, otherwise the image will be overcooked. There we go. Let's go and look at what the differences are. So you can see there's quite a big change. So this building here, I think, is quite a lot nicer actually. So if we want this building, and I think it's better than all this stuff here. So all you do is open it in Mask Editor. Grab all that. I try and work along boundaries. We save it to the node. Go Q. There we go. We've put there. This is Inpainting again. Again, people seem to find it terribly difficult. It's not. It's easy, I think. But anyway. So remember, we got the refine, which will sort out any. So that's one variation. Then we'll look at this one. I'm looking for maybe a better face or better hands, or I think the figure's a bit better on this one. Well, I certainly like the head, and I think we'll have her half. We don't want that arm. It doesn't have to be perfect, this, because it's being refined afterwards. So. Okay. Now, it will always fit. It's one of the interesting things. And I don't like these people here. So you can see you can do quite fine editing. Again, I roughly follow the boundaries. There you go. I prefer the single, and I like this tower. Hey, we have lots of stuff from here then. So I like that tower. I'll have all of that. There you go. So what you see here, we've practically remade the image. And you can also seed hunt at this point. Now, so that's got a better hand. See the hands better? So we'll have a hand. Let's look for anything else. It's all rather nice, isn't it? I like that column. We'll have that. So you can just grab stuff you like and get rid of stuff you don't like. I think that'll all do. Quite like that tower. Yeah, that tower's better. Let's have that. Last thing. You do too much, the refine can't sort it out. Okay, so that's all good. I'll have a bit more of that as well, I think. There you go. And you can rerun these as well, so you can mess with it to your heart's content. And then you have to make sure that you're getting this image. So this is from layers. That goes in there, into the refine. Watch that arrive. And that's more than enough for this video. There we go. So she's quite a lot better. Much better, in fact. And so's our castle. And it's straightened out all of the bits we've messed with. So we can do her quickly. She's in the same position. Something's gone wrong there. Just stop that. That's better. Sometimes this will keep the same. It's set to never. You can set this to always, and it'll keep your mask. There you go. Hasn't she got better? You want to stick fairly close to the bounds, but you'll be surprised at how perfectly it fits in. Again, I try and follow boundaries, and you can remask as many times as you want to get it right. Let's watch her arrive. There you go. Okay, that is definitely it. Thanks for your attention, and I hope that was useful.